Welcome, everyone. Today, we'll explore how explainable AI can accelerate drug discovery without compromising your data privacy. I am Devin Atnor, joined by Satynath Sarkar. Our goal is to show how AI doesn't replace scientists, but instead empowers them, speeding up access to reliable data and actionable insights. Think of this as augmenting human expertise, not automating it away. Our AI approach operates securely across both structured and unstructured biomedical data, helping accelerate two crucial activities: drug repurposing and patient recruitment. And we do this without your data ever leaving your environment. That is a game changer. That means organizations can explore powerful data insights without risking sensitive IP or patient data breaches. The secret sauce? Explainability and agentic AI. So you always understand why a result was generated and you can act confidently. Here's what we'll cover today. First, we will ground ourselves in the everyday pain points the scientists face when trying to make data-driven decisions. Then we'll move into what's possible when AI is applied the right way. We will break down what we mean by explainable AI, do a short demo to show its impact, explore the architecture behind the scenes, and finally, we will show you how easy it is to get started. So let's start with the pain. Whether it's difficult in finding relevant information or gaining access to the right data sets, scientists are often stuck in a loop of redundant searches, inconsistent access policies, and tool fragmentation. These delays don't just waste time, they stall innovation. Imagine reducing this bottleneck from weeks to minutes. That's what explainable AI enables. We've been talking with multiple customers in the biopharma and their most pressing issues. Research scientists need faster hypothesis validation. Data scientists are bogged down with integrating messy data. R&D managers lack real-time visibility. Clinical coordinators face recruitment delays. And pharmacologists struggle to connect mechanistic data across systems. Our AI agents are tailored to each of these roles with workflows that address their unique challenges, providing clear and explainable and rapid insights. So, where can AI really help? Take drug repurposing, for instance. Instead of years of trial and error, AI can mine existing data to find new therapeutic use cases in weeks. For clinical trials, AI can match patients to protocols far more efficiently, and this goes beyond buzzwords. We are talking about measurable gains in time, cost, and scientific insights. Let's visualize this. On the top, you see the traditional drug development pipeline, often spanning 13 to 15 years. But during COVID, with availability of technology, collaboration, and knowledge sharing at an unprecedented speed, vaccines were developed and approved in just under 3 years. That is the future we are building toward, reducing timelines drastically, not just for pandemics, but for every therapeutic area. Here's another view. PandaOmics tracked AI-supported discovery from 2019 to 2024. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. It's already happening. AI-driven platforms are transforming not just how we discover drugs, but how fast. And now we are applying the same transformation to patient recruitment, trial design, and real-world evidence. So let's look at the flow. Pandomics didn't come on the scene without prep. They were building a lot of technologies, biology AI, chemistry AI, some of the in-clinical data sets from 2014 to 2019. Using that tool set and arsenal of AI, they were able to define in vitro and in vivo results or analysis in much faster way to complement the information obtained through AI. And now they are actually building clinical trials with multiple drug candidates in the pipeline. And this is the power of AI. So our message is simple. Explainable AI doesn't just accelerate discovery, it makes it more transparent, reproducible, and scalable. We are here to help you turn your data chaos into scientific clarity. Whether you're looking to repurpose the drugs, optimize trial cohorts, or just eliminate time-consuming manual searches, this is how you start. And the best part? You don't need to move your data or overhaul your systems. Let's make discovery easier together. In the next part of the presentation, Satyanath will walk us through how Clovertex is addressing the explainable AI in drug discovery. Over to you, Satyanath.
Thanks a lot, Devin, and welcome everyone again. And today what I'm going to talk about is what is explainable AI and how does it help a scientist. So first thing is that you could go to an AI and ask a question, can the blue pill cure Alzheimer's? And the AI can give you an answer. It can either say yes or it can say no. Now the question is that as a scientist, will you ever trust this answer? Most likely the answer is no. And the reason is that you have no idea that how was this answer formulated. In order to answer this question today, a scientist goes through a deluge of data. They need to go through various structured and unstructured data. They need to get data from external sources, internal sources. There may be data sets that are hiding behind a paywall, and so on and so forth. Right? So for us to get to that answer, first of all, we need to have reliable raw data. Data from experiments, data from true scientific research, data based on our own expertise and experiments. Then we need to correlate all of that and other relationships. Then we formulate an answer, and finally, we provide an explanation to the scientist along with the data. Now, I want to say right up front that this use case that I'm going to walk through is just a representative use case. This is not a real use case. We just put it together to walk you through the steps to get to an answer, which could be any scientific question that you're asking. In this case, it happens to be a drug repurposing question. So first of all, what is explainable AI and how does it give you that answer reliably? So first of all, it's got several capabilities. So the most important part is reliable data. So there are various data sources, external, internal, structured, unstructured. There should be an ability to execute queries on demand based on the question that a scientist has asked. So it needs to recognize the intent of the question and then on the fly figure out which is the best data source to execute the queries against and then give you a result. Then it will give you access to the interim results as well, because a scientist, when they are trying to address an end project goal, they will go through multiple steps and they want to go back and look at data sets that have been found earlier in the process. So at all times, interim results are very valuable, not only the end result. So it needs to provide access to interim results. We should be able to change data sources. So AI may come up with a plan of execution for your question, but you may have more latest information in an Excel sheet or in a PDF document, and you want AI to be able to use that to give you a better answer. Changing queries. So the scientists would like to have the flexibility to look at additional tables, columns, set, and change the query that AI is executing to give you the answer. And we must be able to preserve the lineage of not only data, but also the queries that have been executed on that data for you to come up with an answer. Now, what is the end result of all of these capabilities? So the end result is that it's transparent, it's understandable, it's trustworthy, and if at any time in the future there is a question about your research, then there is accountability where you can go back and show that there was a particular step that was taken based on solid evidence. Now, how do we achieve all of this? First of all, we need to make sure that you have AI-ready, reliable data. So how do we do that? There is various types of data within any biopharma. Most biopharmas deal with petabytes of data, and most CEOs believe that your next drug is hiding in that data. How do we make sure that we are able to uncover that data using modern technologies, right? So first of all, we need some kind of a discovery capability, which is done using agentic AI, where you're able to go and have an agent that can look at your data, infer that data, and give you an explanation of what it has found within that data set. Now, if you have a human in the loop who's an expert or a subject matter expert who is looking at what AI has found, they can go and correct it. And based on that, AI learns and is able to correctly interpret and tag that data and is able to use it in the future in the right question to answer the right question. Right? Now, dark data is something that a lot of organizations struggle with today, where you have data that is unusable. So the data that you may have acquired from external sources that doesn't have metadata, or data that is stored in a file structure by a particular employee who is no longer with you, and you have no idea what kind of data is sitting in that file structure. So AI can go and help you unleash that data so that you're able to make use of it in your hypothesis generation or any question that you're trying to answer. Now, all of this exploration ends up in the form of a data set that AI can readily consume, whether it's a lexical index, whether it's a semantic understanding, whether it's an ontology or graph, or it's an LLM that is purpose-built for your data, which sits inside your environment and is proprietary. Now, a scientist can query this authentic data source and can go and get a query plan from AI saying that based on your question about sildenafil and Alzheimer, I have come up with this query plan, which is going to give me the answers. You as a scientist now are a human in the loop who is looking at that query plan and can adjust that query plan to say, yes, it looks right, go ahead, or you can go and say, no, it doesn't look right, simplify it, or no, it is not right, go and look elsewhere, and so on, right? Once you approve of the query plan, then there are various AI agents which will go and fetch that data, aggregate that data, create graphs and charts that is required for you, and then come back and give you a human readable answer and not a bunch of tables and columns and data, right? and then you can use that data for analysis. Right? So you have the whole process. One is a bottom-up and the other one is a top-down. Now, what role does agentic AI play in this overall landscape? First of all, it is in the stage one, it is perceiving your data landscape, interpreting what you have, all your assets, and make those assets usable to answer questions. It connects the dots across silos. So you may have data related to genes, you may have data related to drugs, and you may have data related to experiments. It will connect the dots across silos. It will help you find what matters based on intent recognition. It will have different workflows to go and fetch the data correctly. It automates the tedious task of downloading data, transforming data, creating charts and graphs, creating documents, and so on. And it all the time is enforcing governance and compliance. And what I mean by that is that it is making sure that the person who is asking the question, whether they have the right to ask that question, so all your assets are secure at all times, as well as it's making sure that it's using authentic data sources, authentic models, which is giving you authentic answer. So overall, this is what explainable AI does for a scientist. Now I'm going to walk you through a demo, which Devin is going to explain, and then I will walk you through the demo.
Thank you, Satyanath. So let's take a moment to compare traditional drug development with AI-driven drug purposing and understand why the latter is becoming so impactful. On the top of the slide, we see that the de novo drug discovery process, it typically takes 13 to 15 years and involves immense investment of billions of dollars with high failure rates. Each phase, from target discovery, clinical trials, to regulatory approval, is time-consuming and fraught with uncertainty. Now, look at the bottom half. Traditional drug repurposing can cut this down to 3 to 8 years by leveraging the known safety profiles of the existing compounds. But even this can be slow, especially when scientists must navigate disconnected structured and unstructured data manually. That is where AI changes the game. On the bottom, you will see that explainable AI accelerates each critical stage of the repurposing process. Take, for example, target identification, which used to take months, can now be done in days using AI, machine learning, and domain-specific knowledge graphs. MOA, mechanism of action prediction, one of the toughest problems, can now be addressed in hours to days using large language models. In silico validation enables rapid, high-throughput screening, dramatically reducing reliance on slow and expensive wet lab work. And especially when you go into the trial design, optimization of trial design allows for faster, more targeted trials with smaller but pointed patient cohorts, significantly reducing cost and improving success. The bottom line, with AI-driven repurposing, you can move from idea to clinic in just 1 to 3 years. It's not just about speed. It's about smarter, explainable decision-making across the pipeline. Over to you, Satyanath.
Thank you, Devin. So for this example, and I'll repeat myself again here to emphasize that this is just a hypothesis for illustration. This is not a real hypothesis, and we have no way to tell whether sildenafil can actually be used for Alzheimer's or not. But I'm just walking you through the process of thinking and the process of how AI can help your thinking, right? So we all know sildenafil, and we believe that it interacts with the ACE gene, and ACE gene is linked to neurological and bipolar disorders, and therefore we want to explore this option of whether sildenafil can help with Alzheimer's. So for that, we have put together a few data sets. So here, these are all very well-known data sets that all scientists are aware of and use. Now, for this demo, we have only taken external data sets, and that is not the core competence of this platform, because it becomes a lot more valuable when it marries the data from external sources with your proprietary internal data, and that's when it really becomes very, very powerful. So for this demo, you'll see examples from external data, but when you implement it in your own environment, you can choose any data set, whether structured or unstructured, whether external or internal, to answer your questions. And it's a question of configuring that data set, onboarding that data set, and then it's able to start utilizing that data. So there are 6 steps to this research, right? So first is, I want to see the gene associations for sildenafil. Then I'm going to see a particular gene ACE, whether it impacts beyond ED and what kind of neurological conditions it impacts. And then I'm going to go a little bit deeper and research ACE and Alzheimer connection. And then I'm going to go into some unstructured sources, primarily PubMed, where I'm going to see polymorphisms of ACE gene. We are going to look at whether sildenafil is already being considered for Alzheimer's by our competition, or whether there is literature which supports that. And we will also look at patents related to sildenafil for Alzheimer or neurological condition, right? So typically in today's world, you would have to write a lot of code, compile data, extract data, and answer these questions step by step, and it's going to take time to do. So in an AI world, it makes it much simpler by just having prompts, very simple everyday prompts, list all genes associated with sildenafil drug. So no code, nothing required, and you're able to now go and start to get answers, right? So that's what I'm going to do this in this step. In this demo, I'm going to cover the 6 steps that we just discussed for my first simple research using this explainable AI model. It's an interface very similar to modern ChatGPT or Gemini interface, where on the left-hand side, you have your past chat history. You've got some models that you can select on the right-hand side, and you have a few modes that you can choose from. So I'm not going to really use any existing prompts. I'm going to ask new questions. So I'm going to collapse this pane, and so that we are more realistic to understand what's going on here. So the very first question that I'm going to ask is about the sildenafil drug and its gene associations. So I'm going to have this prompt here. So I'm going to type this prompt here. List all gene associations associated with sildenafil drug, their interactions and indications. On the right-hand side, you'd see there is an autonomous mode. So if I ask this question, it will go through all the queries and it will give you an answer. But I am interested in the explain mode, where as an observer or as a scientist, I'll be able to see the steps that AI is going through to fetch and retrieve this data from. In the intermediate mode, you have more capabilities where you see the SQLs that are being generated. You're going to be able to see some data that AI is fetching step by step. You can stop after every step and go through it and so on. And in advanced mode, there are a few more capabilities that you have. So for my first demo, I'm just going to go through the observer mode. So here I submit this question, and what happens when I submit this question is that, first of all, it's creating a query plan. It is identifying the intent that the scientist had behind this question. It's identifying all the tables and data sets that it needs to fetch the data from, and it generates a query plan. So if we look at this query plan, it's a 4-step query plan. In step 1, it retrieves all entries from DGI-DB drugs table, where the drug name is sildenafil, and this looks at drug name and drug claim name and so on, and it retrieves all the entries. Then we use the drug claim name and we look at DGIDB interactions table to get the interactions for those particular for the particular drug that is of our interest, in this case, sildenafil. After that, it goes to the drug bank and fetches data from there, and then finally, it just combines the data from step 2 and 3 into an end result. Okay, so this is the first 3 steps are SQL queries, and fourth step is the formation of the answers. So 3 of the steps have already been executed, and it's right now at the stage 4 where it's combining all this data, and it should give you a result shortly. So what we see here is that not only has it generated and executed all the steps, it has also created a data set for you. So you can go and click on that data set and it'll download a CSV file, and I can go and open that CSV file, and this time I would see what data is there in that file, right? So it found all of these genes, and it is going to provide me information about those genes, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these, and I'm seeing that it has got PD5A, which is a well-known interaction between sildenafil and PD5A gene. And then we keep going, and we see ACE. So we have a gene here, and we want to investigate more about the ACE gene. So now I'm going to go and ask it my second question, where I want to know more about the ACE gene. So I go and say, apart from erectile dysfunction, what are the other conditions or diseases ACE targets? So I click on that question, and in this case, it will go through and create a new query plan, and then it will give me answers based on that. So let's give it a minute. So as you can see, this is also a 4-step query plan. Here, it has gone and looked at the GWAS catalog, and mostly from there, it's fetching data. And this is looking at the mapped gene column equal to ACE. And now it finds various diseases that it is indicated in. So Alzheimer's is one of them, and blood pressure, metabolic and serum levels, and so on and so forth, right? So type 2 diabetes. So these are various diseases that ACE gene interacts with, okay? The next query that I'm going to ask is, are there any evidences in the various publications? So I'm going to have a new query here, and I'm going to ask, can you show me all information like evidence, sample size, studies related to ACE gene targeting enzyme, right? So when I ask it this question, again, it's going to go and create a new query plan and give me all the answer. So the first 3 steps were finding the genes associated with ACE, the diseases that ACE interacts with, and finally, any evidence of ACE gene targeting Alzheimer's. And again, it's gone through and it's looking at a conditions table, and it's looking at interventions table, and it's looking at studies table, and it's fetching data from all of these tables and giving me relevant information from all 3 of them. So what you see now is that there are several studies which are about ACE and Alzheimer's, and then we can now either go and look at a particular study based on what you are seeing, what you're seeing the source, so on, right? So now I'm going to do a little bit of a research using existing publications, right? Having looked through some of the structured data sets such as GWAS, BGIDB, and drug bank, now that we have some evidence that there may be correlation between sildenafil and Alzheimer, we want to further our research by looking at some unstructured data sources. So we could be looking at our internal PDF documents or PowerPoint presentations, or we could be looking through published literature in scientific journals. For this demo, we are going to look at some of the PubMed articles. And the first question that I'm going to ask is that, has sildenafil been considered for Alzheimer's disease? So let's see what it comes back with. And right now we are in autonomous mode. So what that means is it'll go through everything, structured and unstructured data, and give you a combined answer. So let's give it a minute. So now we have an answer from both SQL as well as unstructured data sets. And it gives a summary at the end, which says, sildenafil, a PDE5 inhibitor, has been considered for Alzheimer's disease due to its potential to enhance CGMP signals. And so the articles reviewed suggest that sildenafil could offer neuroprotective and anti-inflammatory benefits. So you could go and take a look at these articles in a new window. And here is an article that goes through exploring the multifaceted potential of sildenafil in medicine. And when you go through it, it does have sildenafil prospective indications, Alzheimer's. Now, whether to trust this article or not, whether to summarize this article, whether to make a conclusive evidence, that's a scientist's prerogative. What this tool is really doing is, from one single interface, it is letting you go to multiple data sources and fetch that data and provide you the answer that you may be looking for to further your research, right? So it is not doing the research for you. It is providing you data from one window without having to log into multiple systems, writing code and downloading data, processing that data, aggregating that data, cutting and pasting that data into a report. It's giving you all the tools for bringing everything together and bringing together trustworthy data. It is telling you which sources the data is coming from so that you can decide whether to trust it or not. So one last question in this particular sample research that we are doing. And this time what we are going to do is we are going to ask about patents. And we have connected this primarily now to PubMed, and PubMed is not the place where you'll be looking for patents, but I'm just asking this question and seeing what it comes back with. Maybe it will come up with some patent information in PubMed as well. So it has found a couple of articles that this article indicates there are patent applications for the use of sildenafil in treating Leigh syndrome, which is a neurological condition. Again, whether that is enough evidence for you to continue your research further or continue your drug repurposing use case further or not is your decision. This is making the data available to you from one window. So hope that made the point clear that we can go and take a look at multiple data sets and combine answers from there to further your research. So on the same lines, I'm going to show one more use case. So let's say that you have concluded that, yes, there is potential for sildenafil and Alzheimer's, and you want to do a clinical trial with that. So in clinical trials is an extended process and it's got its own complexities. And this is not going to go into every aspect of it. It's just going to show you simply that how we can leverage sources like clinicaltrials.gov or your patient database and get some help in identifying the right potential candidates for doing the trials, right? So this is a very simple 3-step search where we are looking at the recruitment criteria. So we are looking at the past Alzheimer's trials in clinicaltrials.gov, looking at the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Based on that, we are looking at our patient database and coming up with particular patients. And we are also looking at strategies that are published for success with recruiting patients for Alzheimer's related disease, right? So with that, I'm going to go into this second demo. Welcome back to the continued demo of the Alzheimer patient recruitment criteria. It's a simpler demo than the one that we went through first. So I'm going to type my first question here. I'm going to collapse this sidebar here for more real estate. And I'm going to go into intermediate mode this time and put my question. So the reason that I chose intermediate mode this time is that maybe I want to look at the query plan step by step, decide whether this plan is appropriate for this query or not, also see some intermediate results, and so on and so forth, right? So as you can see, it has come up with a 3-step query plan. It looks at the eligibility table and looks at the criteria column and looks for the keyword Alzheimer's. Then for all the records that it found Alzheimer's in, it looks at the criteria column in more detail and fetches additional data. And finally, it creates a criteria text and gives it out, right? So to me, it looks like step 2 and step 3 are sort of duplicate. So I can say I want to modify this plan, and I'm going to say yes here. So I can go and say what is the modification. I can simply say certify in this plan, right? And see what AI comes up with. So maybe it will come up with a smaller, shorter plan. So let's give it a second and see. And it's already generated the plan, and it's become slightly more intelligent here and says, okay, I'm going to do this in 2 steps. I don't want to make any further changes, so I'm going to let go here, and it'll go and fetch the data from the eligibilities table, and it'll show me what results it has found, and it'll ask me to whether I want to proceed further or not. So it's found 4,400 records, but it'll not show me all 4,400 records. It's going to show me a few, and I'm going to go and continue with this here. So while it's continuing, we can look at what data it has found. So it has found all the detailed criteria for various studies, and each study has a study ID and sampling method, the age range, and so on. So now it's gone and created the inclusion criteria, and it's giving me all the data that it fetched for that. So inclusion and exclusion criteria, population criteria, and so on. So it summarized it for me, saying that inclusion criteria, the age range is above 50 years, and maximum age limit is 85. And exclusion criteria could include anybody who has Parkinson's disease and so on, right? Now, I would like to find a few patients which could potentially be useful for this study. So I'm going to go and ask my next question. It's a representative question again. Provide a list of 10 patients along with all their relevant data such as birth date, race, ethnicity, gender, country, etc., who are diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So I go and let it run, and again it'll because I am still in intermediate mode, it will go through step by step. Let's give it a minute. And now that it's come back and generated the query plan. So this is a 4-step query plan, and it'll ask me after every step. So I'm going to say no, and I'm going to let it run, and I'm going to do the same with the remaining steps here. So now you see that you have a patient list, and maybe the next step that you want to do is, are there any research papers that describe the patient recruitment methods for Alzheimer's to make them more effective? So my next query is going to be around the patient recruitment methods in Alzheimer's disease. So as you can see, the results are showing some articles. So machine learning enhanced screening funnel for clinical trials in Alzheimer's disease. This looks interesting. So I can go and open this link and see if it has something that will be valuable. So there you go, and you can go through it and you can find if there are methods that we can use to make the patient recruitment process better for Alzheimer's based on other experiences. So with that demo, I hope it gives you an idea of what the experience looks like. Very simple, a way to get access to the data that you're looking for just in time from reliable sources and proven. So we'll very quickly walk through the architecture in the interest of time so that you get an idea of what it looks like. So on step 1, you have various data sources. It could be in databases on the cloud or on-prem. and then you have data in SharePoint and Amazon and so on. You create a knowledge graph where you store your ontology, and then you have Amazon or OpenAI or other services that you subscribe to. You have retrieval augmented generation, which gets the context from your own data sources and then sends formulates the query. And then you have all of these applications that go and query your data. And then finally, you get a summarized response. And then you could use other technologies to, analyze and create analyzed outputs from. So we can work with you and your IT teams to have the right architecture. This is not the only architecture that works. You can have an OpenAI-based architecture or Azure-based architecture, and so, right? So with that, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes walking you through how easy it is to get started. So we have a 4-step implementation timeline and onboarding of data sets, right? So this kind of assumes that you are talking about clean data, which are readily usable. Oftentimes, that's not the case, and that could take longer. But if you have a use case and a clean data set, then it's fairly simple for you to get going with something like this. So typically, a discovery takes about 2 to 4 weeks, where we identify the golden data sets, we identify the type of questions that you would ask, and we identify valid answers, and so on. After that, the installation and configuration takes 1 to 2 weeks. It can happen in parallel. We do data onboarding and testing and making sure that it's returning reliable, good results with correct explanations. And finally, you have user acceptance testing phase. And then, so 8 to 12 weeks is all it takes for your first MVP to go online. And then you can continue to onboard more data sets as needed. Devin, any last thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Satnash. It was really an eye-opening demo of how quickly we can build an agent or explainable AI solution, which can solve pretty difficult problems very fast. I think we are not stopping here. What our goal is to really improve the R&D productivity. Here's an equation which I've been researching, which basically focuses on how do we actually calculate R&D productivity. On the numerator, basically it is saying that if we can do more experiments, much faster experiments, as well as the value of the experiments, we can improve the R&D productivity by increasing the numerator. By decreasing the denominator, which is really focused on costs and cycle times. And what we have shown you today in our demos is really focused on the decreasing the denominator. We are working on building a lot of solutions which will actually increase the numerator. So if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out to us. We welcome you to contact us if you have any solutions we would like to work with you on to discover, analyze, and validate your solutions, bringing AI to your data, and building solutions which will accelerate your R&D discovery. Please contact us.
Thank you both very much for a very informative presentation. We do have some questions already, which we'll get to in a moment. Also, if you've not asked a question yet, it's not too late. Just enter them by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of the webinar window and type in your questions. Also, if you'd like to contact us after this webinar, please be sure to visit us at clovertex.com/AI, or you can email us directly, ai@clovertex.com. Also, if you'd like to stay informed about the latest developments around these topics, we encourage you to follow Clovertex on LinkedIn. Okay, so now on to the questions. The first question is there any trial version of this AI available to test? Who would like to take that question?
I could take it. So we have implemented this in several customers, and our implementation approach has been first doing proof of concept to make sure that everybody is comfortable with the answers that are being given, and the quality of answers is the most important one. We don't have a readily available hosted solution that you can come and test with, but if you're interested, that can be easily done either within your own environment or within in a SaaS setup where you can use public data or your own data and try it out for yourself.
Great, thank you. Another question, what kind of data can be given for AI to train on?
So we work with both structured and unstructured data sets, right? And in this particular use case, we have only one training approach, which is to augment the LLM to understand your data. However, if you're using a RAG-based approach, that may not be necessary most of the time, where your data stays in the source system or in a data lake, and then we can go and use that as a part of our pipeline using an agentic workflow to give you real-time answers from that data. So that way, your data is never dated. You're getting answers from the source systems or a copy of that source system in a data lake, and your live documents. So we have really worked very hard to make sure that you're getting the latest and the greatest information and live information rather than having a pre-trained model. So again, the task here at hand is making data easily available, no code, to the scientists.
Great, thank you. This question here from Balaji. In the space of small molecule discovery, how does this solution help?
Hey, Balaji, thanks for the question. This is Devin. As you noticed in our demo, we brought in certain data types based on the demo questions we were asking. For the small molecule discovery, essentially, it really depends upon what data sets you want to bring in, especially if you are looking for structured activity relationships, some of the SMILES-based analysis, etc. We need to identify the right data sets to bring in. What we have built here is basically a modular construct where you can bring in the data which you are interested in bringing, and we will be able to provide you the solution which will allow you to answer those questions based on the context and based on the data sets we are bringing in.
Another question, does the proprietary data go to internet and can it be exposed to public?
So we have gone at great lengths to ensure security of your own proprietary data. That is the gold mine that any firm has, and they will never, ever compromise on any part of their data. In fact, what I have experienced is that even inside the organization, often there is barriers, purposely done barriers, so that you don't expose your data accidentally to your different teams. That is not really required for a particular project, right? So therefore, what we have done is we have tried to ensure that this is always hosted in a well-known cloud platform with the data privacy ensured, right? So whether it's Azure OpenAI or whether it's Amazon Bedrock, both of them ensure that your data not only is end-to-end encrypted, it's not stored anywhere. If you don't want it to be stored, it's never used for any training purposes, and nobody can have access to it. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is that at all times, we are ensuring that the original access control lists that are tied to a particular document or tied to a particular data set that are maintained through the entire platform, during the creation of embeddings, during the query process, it's always ensuring that, first of all, whether you have the right to ask that question, as well as whether you have access to that particular asset, which is your data asset, right? So entirely, we are making sure that in the whole stack, your data is never exposed to the internet. And all your queries that are happening, especially from the structured data, it is entirely in-house. The GenAI is only generating the query that is required to do it. So the queries are always happening inside your intranet environment or within your virtual private cloud. Hopefully that answers the question.
Great. Okay, here is a question from Sid. How does this compare with TXGNN for drug repurposing?
Hey, Sid, thanks for the question. As you can imagine, especially, I'll give you an example of what we did for PubMed. We brought in the PubMed GPT into our composable models. And so the questions which we asked PubMed were actually coming from PubMed GPT. So what we are showing is not really a point solution for drug repurposing. That's just a use case which we use to show it, the functionality. This is essentially a quote-unquote a solution/platform accelerator where you can bring in any other GPT models which can be used for querying or actually complementing the information you want to bring in yourself. So it's very easy to bring in the TXGNN into this platform and ask the questions directly of TXGNN. So you can actually now complement what is in the TXGNN to the additional data sets from your internal data sources as well as public data sources to build the models which are really focused on answering your questions.
Great. Thank you, Devin. We have time for a few more questions. Here's one from Jessica, and she asks, can this architecture be used for scientific research other than drug repurposing?
So thank you, Jessica, for that question. And I think we have looked at that from ground up, right? So this particular example that we walked through, that was just to demo the capabilities of the platform, right? The platform gets richer and richer and richer as we onboard new data sets. And onboarding new data sets is a fairly simple exercise where you point to a particular data set and then it automatically goes and looks at the metadata and is now capable of answering new questions. For that, you may have a specific agentic workflow that you want to onboard, so you can onboard that as well. And now you are all of a sudden more capable of answering new sets of questions from this platform. And we have this intelligent routing capability that based on the original intent of the question, it can get routed to the correct agent to answer your questions, right? So yes, it can. It's not a drug repurposing platform. It's not a drug discovery platform. It's a one-window data access platform that makes the job of scientists much easier, where they are not looking for data, they are looking at data.
All right. Do we have time for one more question? All right, here we go. This one's from Vikram, and he wants to know, how do you ensure enterprise data security is maintained while responding to user prompts?
Yeah, so enterprise data security is all through maintained by making sure that we are using the correct models that are provided by reputable cloud providers like Azure or AWS, and their privacy ensures that all your data at rest and in transport is secure and it's never used for any kind of training of their models.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for that. Okay, that's about all the time we have for now. We'll be sure to follow up on any questions we did not have an opportunity to respond to here. So we'd like to thank everyone for attending and wish you great success in your AI journeys ahead. Thank you.